Hello guys, and welcome to another video. Today you join us at BMW Park Lane for a very special event. BMW Park Lane have given us the keys to their showroom for the whole weekend, so we decided to fill it with all of our project cars, which you'll be familiar with if you follow the channel. If you're not, we will go through those in a minute. I'd like to thank everyone who's helped us get to this stage, our customers, suppliers, family members, anyone who's actually been to visit us over this weekend. Really enjoyed the atmosphere that's created here. Seeing the cars in this environment is very, very special. I used to actually walk past this dealership as a kid, wondering one day would I be able to afford a brand new BMW, and I've been blessed so much that I have more than one now and I'm able to do whatever I want to do to them to make them my own. So this video is going to be for you that weren't able to make it down here. We're going to run through what's going on in here, look at all the cars, enjoy the show. So the story of Evolve actually starts with the BMW M Coupe. I had one of these in 2003. It was an Arctic Silver S50 version. And I started modifying that car before I had my business. People in the community took notice of what I was doing and asked me to do the same things that I was doing to that car, to theirs. I didn't have a business at that time. I was working full time in my office job. So I found a way of buying the parts, giving them to my friend who was a BMW Master Tech. He would fit the parts and then we would complete projects for customers. That happened over a course of a year and I thought I can make a business out of this. I started a website and Evolve was born in 2007. So recently myself and Bilal have been able to acquire another M Coupe. This one is an S54 version and it's finished in titanium silver rather than Arctic. At the time I had this car, I always wanted a set of BBS LMs, but I couldn't afford them or justify them. But as soon as we bought this car, I knew I wanted a set of BBS LMs. So as the car stands, it has H&R coilovers, a set of BBS LMs. We do have a carbon fiber airbox in production for this car, and also a full BMW Super Sprint exhaust with the exhaust manifolds and the rear exhaust to go on. So we'll bring you a video when we do that. With the Z3M, we were selling other people's products. This car is the one that actually took us into developing the business further and having Evolve branded products. This car has a very special place in my heart because it's a car we built for a customer over many years. We developed a lot of parts on this car, which I'll explain in a minute. But on this platform, the main products we sold were the exhaust manifold, sports cats, the exhaust, and also an intake and ECU tune. This particular car looks very standard from outside. I don't actually like making visual changes to the E39. I think the design is actually very, very slick and doesn't need any add-ons. But this does have some BBS LMs, which is my favorite wheel on the slightly older BMWs, set of Brembo brakes and Bilstein suspension. If we come around the back, you can see one of the first Evolve branded products, which is this fantastic sounding exhaust, and that goes up to the X pipe, Evolve Sports Cats, and finishes at the engine with the Evolve 4x1 exhaust manifold. But let's take a look in the engine bay, because as plain as the car looks from outside, it's not so plain from the inside. So this is the supercharger kit we actually developed on this car for this customer. He wasn't happy with the off-the-shelf kits. He wanted air-to-air intercooler, but didn't want to cut the front bumper, so we put the intercooler in the wheel arch over there. It's running a Roadtrek C3891, around 6 PSI, makes 620 to 630 horsepower. So the reason why we have a billet plenum is because of this car. During development, the standard metal plenum blew up twice, took the bonnet out, so we had to replace the bonnet twice and get it painted. So that forced us to make an inlet plenum out of billet to withstand the pressure the supercharger was putting into the car, and that did actually then solve that problem and add a little bit more power. But I really love this car. It has a lot of sentimental value to us, and I'm really happy that we were able to buy it back and bring it back into our stable. There are two cars I'll mention that we don't actually have here that were very important in the history of Evolve and the products we made. First one is the E46 M3. We tuned thousands of those cars, and we also made the carbon airbox, which was my first ever carbon fiber product, which did extremely well and is still sold to this day. The second car was E60 M5, and we developed a set of exhaust manifolds for that car. The ECU tuning was very, very popular, and that was the car that actually started my obsession with top speed, because that was the first car that I took to VMAX and got very close to 200 miles an hour. I did 200 indicated, but I think it was around 196, which was very, very quick for a normally aspirated car. As I said, we don't actually own a normal E46 at the moment or an E60 M5, so they're not actually in the collection. So the car next to me is a Japan red E92 M3. It's dubbed the KA401 in the UK, so it was a limited run edition of this particular car. And this was the first M3 that we were tuning and developing product for right from the beginning of the car. So Evolve started in 2007, and this car had just come out towards the end of 2007. So we were able to start working on this platform straight away, and it was extremely successful for us. We again did a lot of ECU tuning on this car. We developed a Valvetronic exhaust with the help of Sibsprint, a catted X pipe, and later on in life, as you guys probably know, I am the co-owner of eVenturi, so we did develop then the carbon fiber plenum and the intake for this car, which we can take a look at right now. I really love the E92 M3 anyway. I would put it up there with my favorite M3, apart from the special limited editions like the E46 M3 CSL. But this really does close the gap for me with the CSL in terms of the induction noise. The plenum just sounds absolutely fantastic. It does sound like a V8 CSL. This particular car has the new prototype inlets here, which is going to be a new product that eVenturi are going to release very, very soon. This car also has our stage 2 package, so it runs around 450 to 460 horsepower. And we still see a lot of these cars, and I think it's going to be an important car going forward from now. We have actually developed a new suspension setup with Bilstein, so we've got our own custom valved B6 EDC dampers on this, combined with the MSS suspension. And we're going to carry on developing products for this car where we think we need to, because I really love the platform, and I think people have really started to realize now this is like the last NA M3. It's V8, it revs very high, and it is actually very special. Okay. That ends our naturally aspirated story with M-Power cars, and it was now the era of the turbocharged car, which started with the 1M. We didn't own an 1M, although we did do a lot of development on that car with an intercooler, tune, downpipes, and exhaust. The first turbo M-Power car we actually owned ourselves and developed parts on was the F87 M2. Wasn't this particular one. We did actually have a Porsche Signal Green car, which we bought from Park Lane many years ago. That car didn't last very long. We just built it and it got written off around 3,000 miles into its life. And then we replaced it with this Verdi Mantis individual F87 M2. The car had a lot of potential tuning wise. You know, you can get the car up to around 520 horsepower with just a stage 1. This particular car is running a crank hub fix, hybrid turbos, and will make 650 horsepower on normal Shell V power, but with some race fuel and methanol it can make 700 plus. So we'll take a quick look at the engine bay on this car, which unsurprisingly features lots of carbon because it has the full carbon kit from Venturi, including the charge pipes and the engine cover. It's running a CSF rad, and this car is the first one, I believe now, that actually runs 2 more parts that I've developed. So although I also own Evolve, I'm co-owner of Venturi, which is the intakes, Evero, which makes the body kit for this car, which I designed, and also the wheels. So the wheels are made by 660, which I run with my friend Taran. So this car actually has wheels I've designed, a body kit I've designed, intakes which Bilal designed, but I co-own Venturi. So it's almost a complete car in my vision. So if I was to make a complete car, this is what it would end up like. So in between the demise of our F87 M2 and buying the new F87 M2 in Verdi Mantis, we did actually pick up an F87 M2, which is this car. We still own it to this day. And it was BMW's baby M car. And as much as people say it's the lower end of the M car market, this is actually my favorite car out of all the cars that we own for many reasons. The base of the car is actually very good, and in my opinion, although it's called an M2, this is as close to the spirit of an E46 M3 or an E90 M3 you're going to get. The F80 M2 is a bit more grown up, a bit more designed for daily driving rather than the pursuit of driving fun. This car is very special because essentially it's my dream built spec with no budget. So when this car came out, our idea was to make a BMW M2 GTS because BMW never made one. So the car is inspired by the M4 GTS, hence the big wing, the roll cage, the bucket seats, the orange accents. We were also one of the first people in the world to fit ceramic brakes to the car. So it has the ceramic brakes from the F80 M3. It has a GTS style bonnet and also a carbon roof and the GTS splitter at the front. Yeah, I know it's damaged. I do actually drive this car a lot. I've done around 22,000 miles. I take it on road trips. And because I keep damaging it, I've left it on to show that we actually do use the car. So let me just open the bonnet and I can show you underneath. So this car was the first big build that Evolve did, and in terms of we changed absolutely everything on the car, including the interior. The seats are Cobra Nagaro. The whole interior has been retrimmed to suit the whole black, grey, orange theme. This car also has Venturi intake and engine cover. It's running CSF intercooler, Evolve Sport Cat downpipe and a Super Sprint exhaust. So the power of this car is 430 horsepower and around 430 foot-pound of torque. And a lot of people ask me, why have you stuck with the N55 and not gone to the competition? It's because I've made this car exactly how I want it. The roll cage has made the car extremely stiff. It has all the bracing from the M4. It has very special suspension. So we did have Bilstein B16 suspension on it for a while. Now we're running MSS's prototype coilovers, which we will do a video on when they're actually ready to release it. And power wise, I think that's the sweet spot for this car. So I did have a hybrid turbo on this, was running about 520 horsepower, but didn't like the way the power delivery changed. because the torque and the power came in a lot later, and I wasn't able to have as much fun as I do have on the stock turbo, because it spools up so quickly. You've got a lot of torque low down, so you can have more fun at low speeds. But I absolutely love this car. The other thing about the N55 actually is that it sounds a lot better than the S55 in my opinion, and I think a lot of people will agree with me. So while we were developing the M2, our pursuit of top speed did not end with the E60 M5. We did own a very famous F10 M5, which we dubbed Great White. And at VMAX, we were able to hit 200 miles an hour GPS, which we didn't manage in the E60 M5. We did get close, but I will try and explain something here, because a lot of people, when they saw the top speed for the F10s, they were getting really disappointed compared to our E60 M5. But let me explain something to you. VMAX used to be a run down to a corner, and then it would be a rolling start from around 60, 70 miles an hour, and then it'd be a 1.6 mile or 1.7 mile straight to hit the top speed. The new VMAX was from a standing start, and it started off at around 1.6 miles, and then towards the end actually got down to 1.2 to 1.3 miles. So what we were doing in the F10 couldn't directly be compared to the E60 M5. Now that moves us on to the next car in the pursuit of not only top speed, because this car had four-wheel drive, but also quarter mile times. A lot of you will recognize this car. It's arguably the most famous Evolve car apart from our F87 M2, and it's the one that you've seen on CarWow and Matt Watson driving it and racing some very, very quick cars. We've now got over 1,000 horsepower on this car. It will do 9-second quarter mile, and it does well over 200 miles an hour in a standing start in a mile. So it just shows you how quick this car is. So I'll just run over the modifications that we have on this. It has a built engine by Mr. Vanos. It has RK hybrid turbos, RK meth system, Venturi intake. It has JRZ coilovers and a full RKP body kit, along with the 660 Shuriken wheels. So you'll see that I am a big fan of these wheels. We're running them on 4 of our cars. Let me just open the engine bay on this to show you. Under the bonnet, you can see the Venturi V2 intakes, and it's also running a prototype turbo inlet on either side, which we will release more information on when we're ready. Has CSF charge coolers, and the plaque there just designates that Mr. Vanos has actually built this engine. We've done around 1,000 miles on this engine now, so it's well running, and as soon as the weather gets better, we will start doing more times to see if we can get our quarter mile time down to like a 9.6, 9.7. The car also has a full Super Sprint exhaust, which we took the car to in Italy, and they designed it while we were there, and we've made a really good video on that. So if you haven't seen that, please check that out. That brings us to the current day and the G80 M3. It was actually the first M3 that I was invited to official press launch on, so I was very appreciative of that. This car is actually Venturi's development car for the intakes. Evolve do have one on order, but it's not going to come until towards the end of this month. It's an individual color, so it's taken a bit longer to come than we thought it would do. This one is a rear-wheel drive version, and from our experience of the F10 versus the F90, we knew that it was pointless pursuing lots of power in a rear-wheel drive car because they just don't get the grip, and if we're going for quarter mile times, we really need the X-Drive version. But while we've had this car, we have developed with MSS the suspension. It's running a set of 660 two-piece wheels, again in my favorite design, the Shuriken. It's running an Aliski exhaust. So this is running the Venturi prototype carbon fiber intakes. It's running a full line strut bar and the Alpha N corner splitters. So on this car, we have actually designed a whole suite of aero parts under the Avero brand. Not only diffusers and front splitters and spoiler, but also a whole redesign of the front bumper to make the grills slightly smaller. Now that design was very, very controversial when it came out. And I have to say, personally, I don't mind it. I've kind of got used to it. It's very aggressive, but we do know a lot of people don't like it. So we are making an alternative. If people really don't like it, you can switch it out. As you can see, we own a lot of very powerful fire-breathing cars. And we also like to balance it out by having an EV car. So this is actually my wife's car. It's an i3S, which we've developed some Bilstein suspension for, and it's also running a set of two-piece Shuriken wheels. we understand now that the writing is kind of on the wall for ICE cars, and it's time for us to look to the future to see how we can use our brand name and carry on the business. So we understand there will still be a demand for suspension products for these EV cars, and we're also designing a body kit for this car with the Avero brand. So it's one of those things that I know what's going to happen, and it's me hedging my bets for the future of the business so we can continue using the Evolve brand. Who knows, maybe we'll have Evolve branded EV cars with our full body kits, wheels and suspension on them. I'd like to thank everyone who's made it down today and over the weekend to check our cars out. Thanks again to BMW Park Lane and everyone who's made it possible for us to be here. Who knows, if this is received well, maybe we'll get a chance to do it next year. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on. If you want to join the conversation, please drop us a comment below and we will do our best to respond to you. And if you're running out of things to watch, why don't you watch one of these two?